The mahogany conference table at Anderson, Phillips and West reflected the strained faces of my extended family. I adjusted my simple black blazer from Zara, no designer labels today, and watched Uncle Robert pace at the head of the table, his Rolex catching the afternoon light. "First," he announced, gripping the back of his chair, "I want to thank everyone for coming to discuss Grandmother Eleanor's estate." His gaze swept past me, like I was invisible. At 26, I was the youngest person in the room by a decade. My cousins, Michael, Diana, and Patrick, sat across from me, all wearing expressions of practiced concern, the kind that masked calculation. I noticed Diana's new Cartier bracelet, probably bought on credit like everything else she owned. "As you know," Uncle Robert continued, "Mom left a complicated financial situation." He emphasized the word in a way that made several family members shift uncomfortably. "The main question is who will manage her investment portfolio and charitable foundation." I knew what was coming, had known since Grandmother's funeral 3 weeks ago, when I'd overheard Uncle Robert and Michael discussing their plans in the garden. Obviously, Michael spoke up right on cue. "We need someone with experience, financial acumen." He smiled at his father, Uncle Robert. "Maybe someone who already manages significant assets. Like the assets you've been mismanaging for the past 5 years." I thought, keeping my face neutral as I typed something on my phone. Actually, I was activating a recording app. Grandmother had taught me well. Always keep records. "Alexandra," Uncle Robert finally acknowledged my existence. "I know Mom spent time teaching you about investments in her final years." It was sweet. His condescension made Diana smirk. But managing a portfolio of this size requires real expertise. I looked up from my phone. "How large do you think Grandmother's portfolio is, Uncle Robert?" He waved dismissively. "About 12 million. Last I checked. Far too complex for someone your age." "Actually," I said quietly, "it was 47 million as of this morning." The room went still. I should know. I've been managing it for the past 3 years. Patrick laughed, but it sounded forced. "That's impossible. Aunt Eleanor would never. She's just a kid who can't manage money." Uncle Robert cut in, but I caught the flash of panic in his eyes. Probably looking at the wrong numbers. Diana nodded eagerly. "I mean, what do you even do besides that little online business of yours?" I pulled out my phone, opened my personal banking app, and slid it across the table. "Why don't you see for yourself?" The room fell silent as they stared at the balance. $53,426,897.14. Below it, a portfolio breakdown showing investments in tech, real estate, and emerging markets. All green, all profitable. This has to be fake," Michael sputtered. I took my phone back. Grandmother made me her financial advisor when I was 23. Said she liked how I analyzed market trends. "That little online business?" I smiled at Diana. "It's a financial technology platform. We process over $200 million in transactions daily." Uncle Robert's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "Even if that's true, the estate still needs." "Let me stop you there." I pulled a folder from my bag. "These are the transfer documents Grandmother filed last year. Everything's already been moved to Anderson Trust Management." I paused. "My company." "You can't," Uncle Robert started. "I can and I did. Or rather, Grandmother did. She wasn't confused or complicated at the end, Uncle Robert. She was very clear about who she trusted with her legacy. "We'll challenge it," Michael threatened. "Get a court order." "Before you do that," I cut in, pulling up another document on my phone. "You might want to explain these transactions first." I turned the screen so Uncle Robert could see the spreadsheet. His face went from red to white. "Where did you get those?" Grandmother kept excellent records, especially of money borrowed without permission. I looked at my cousins. "You might want to ask your father about the real reason the family's Palm Beach house was sold." The conference room door opened and a silver-haired man in an impeccable suit entered. "Miss Kingston, the board members are ready for you." "Thank you, James." I stood, smoothing my blazer. "That would be the Anderson, Phillips, and West board. I bought the firm last month." "Grandmother always said to invest in what you know." I gathered my things. "You'll be receiving official letters about your outstanding loans soon. I suggest you all find good lawyers." "You can't do this to family," Diana's voice cracked. I paused at the door. "Funny. That's exactly what Grandmother said when she discovered the money you've been stealing from her accounts." I checked my watch. "The audit team will be here in an hour." I'd use that time to decide what matters more, your pride or your freedom. As I walked out, I heard Michael's shaky voice. "Dad, what exactly did you borrow from Aunt Alina?" I smiled. Grandmother had always said money was like water. It revealed every crack in a person's character. As I headed to the board meeting, I pulled up a photo on my phone. Grandmother and me at my college graduation. Both of us smiling. She taught me more than just investing. She taught me how to handle sharks. And we were just getting started. That evening, I sat in Grandmother Alina's study. Now my study, in the Victorian mansion she'd left me. The room still smelled of her signature jasmine perfume. But her antique desk now held my modern laptop alongside her vintage Tiffany lamp. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the family meeting. 37 missed calls from Uncle Robert, 23 from Michael, 15 from Diana. Even Patrick, usually the quiet one, had tried 5 times. I opened my laptop and pulled up the file labeled Illinois Protection Protocol, the document that had started everything 3 years ago. 3 years earlier. "Watch this," Grandmother had said, her elegant fingers flying across her keyboard with surprising speed. "See how Robert moves money between accounts. Always on the 15th of each month." I leaned closer, studying the transaction patterns. "He's hiding something." "Hiding many things, dear." She'd smiled, but it hadn't reached her eyes. "Your uncle thinks because I'm old, I don't understand modern banking, but I've been tracking every penny since before he was born." That night, she'd shown me everything. The secret accounts, the falsified loan documents, the systematic theft from her foundation. She'd been gathering evidence for years, waiting for someone she could trust. A knock at the study door pulled me back to the present. "Come in, Marcus." My head of security entered, holding a thick folder. "The surveillance reports you requested, Miss Kingston, from the past week." I opened the folder, spreading out photos across the desk. Uncle Robert meeting with his lawyer at midnight. Michael emptying his office at the family's investment firm. Diana making 3 trips to her safety deposit box. "They're panicking," Marcus observed. Good. I pulled up another file on my laptop. "Have our teams finished the complete audit?" "Yes. The numbers are worse than we expected." He handed me another document. "Your uncle wasn't just stealing from Mrs. Alina. He was running a complete Ponzi scheme through the family investment firm." I scanned the numbers, feeling a cold anger build. $47 million stolen from grandmother. Another $30 million from other family clients. All hidden under layers of complex transactions and fake accounts. My phone buzzed again. A text from Diana. Please, we need to talk. Dad says he can explain everything. I showed Marcus the message. How long until the SEC receives our report? It's ready to send. Just waiting for your authorization. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the garden where grandmother had taught me about more than just money. She taught me about responsibility, about protecting what matters. Send it, I said quietly. And Marcus? Activate phase 2. He nodded and left. I picked up a framed photo from the desk. Grandmother and me at my company's launch, her eyes bright with pride. Watch me. I'd promised her that day. I'll protect everything you built. My phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. I answered, putting it on speaker. Alexandra? It was Patrick, calling from a burner phone probably. You need to understand. We didn't know. About Dad. About the money. Really? I pulled up his file. Is that why you authorized wire transfers from grandmother's account to your offshore holdings? Silence. How did? Those records were encrypted. I smiled. Grandmother taught me more than just investing, cousin. She taught me to follow the money. All of it. We can make a deal, he said quickly. I have documents, proof of everything Dad did. You mean these documents? I opened my encrypted drive. The ones you hid in a safety deposit box at First National. Grandmother had copies. She had copies of everything. The line went dead. My laptop chimed with an alert. The SEC had received our report. Within hours, the investigation would begin. But that wasn't the only surprise waiting for my family. I opened my company's internal messaging system. 2. Global Management Team. Subject: Project Legacy Activation. Status: Phase 2 initiated. Timeline: Execute at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Another text came through, this time from Michael. You've destroyed the family. I hope you're happy. I typed back. No, Uncle Robert destroyed the family when he started stealing from grandmother. I'm just cleaning up the mess. Standing, I walked to the hidden wall safe, the one Uncle Robert had never known about. Inside was grandmother's real legacy, a USB drive containing everything she discovered, everything she protected, and everything she planned. Marcus, I called through the intercom. Is everything ready for tomorrow? Yes, Miss Kingston. The press release is prepared, the documents are filed, and the board members have been notified. And the other matter? The private investigators have confirmed. Your cousins have all been making large cash withdrawals. They're planning to run. I smiled. Let them try. Their accounts will be frozen in. I checked my watch. Exactly 3 hours. My phone buzzed one final time. Uncle Robert. You're making a huge mistake. I raised you like my own daughter. I typed back. No, Uncle Robert. Grandmother raised me. She raised me to see through men like you. Tomorrow, they would learn exactly what that meant. Tomorrow, when Phase 2 began, they'd understand why grandmother had chosen me to protect her legacy. I touched the jasmine perfume bottle on the desk. Watch me, grandmother. Watch me finish what you started. The real game was about to begin. The next morning, I arrived at Anderson Phillips and West's headquarters precisely at 8:45 a.m. The lobby's marble floors reflected the chaos unfolding. Security teams escorting employees from Uncle Robert's old department, federal agents reviewing documents, and reporters gathering outside the glass doors. My phone lit up with a news alert. BREAKING. Major financial fraud uncovered at Kingston Investment Group. SEC launching full investigation. Right on schedule. Ms. Kingston. Marcus appeared at my elbow. They're all here, waiting in the main conference room. I nodded, straightening my St. Laurent blazer. No more department store clothes. Today, I dressed for war. And the evidence? Everything's ready, including the video feeds from Mrs. Aliner's private security system. The conference room fell silent as I entered. Uncle Robert, looking disheveled in a wrinkled Armani suit, sat between his high-priced lawyers. Michael and Diana huddled together at one end, while Patrick sat alone, avoiding everyone's eyes. "Thank you all for coming," I said, taking my place at the head of the table. "Though given the federal agents outside, I suspect you didn't have much choice." "This is ridiculous," Uncle Robert burst out. "You can't possibly think." I held up my hand, silencing him. "Before you continue, let's review exactly what I think." I opened my laptop, connecting it to the room's display screens. 3 years ago, Grandmother discovered unusual transactions in her accounts. The screens filled with banking records, money moving between shell companies, unauthorized loans, forged signatures. Diana's face crumpled. "That's not what, cousin? Not real?" I clicked to the next slide. "Here's security footage from First National Bank. That's you, using Grandmother's stolen ID to access her safety deposit box. 13 times in the past year." The color drained from her face. "Alexandra," Michael tried, his voice placating. "We can explain. The family business needed capital. You mean your gambling debts needed covering?" I pulled up his private bank statements. "Strange how your business losses always matched your casino withdrawals." Patrick shifted in his seat. "Some of us weren't involved." "I never." "Really?" I turned to him. "Should we discuss the foundation's missing scholarship funds? The ones that somehow ended up funding your startup?" The lawyers exchanged glances. One started gathering his papers. "Don't bother leaving," I told them. "The FBI has some questions about your role in concealing these transactions." Uncle Robert slammed his hand on the table. "Enough. You think you've won? You think you can just walk in here and take everything we built?" "Everything you built?" My voice was ice. "You mean everything you stole? From Grandmother, from charity, from innocent investors who trusted the Kingston name?" I stood, walking to the window overlooking the city. "Grandmother spent her last years gathering evidence against all of you. She watched as you stole her money, betrayed her trust, and laughed about her confusion behind her back." Turning back, I met each of their eyes. But she wasn't confused. She was planning to protect her real legacy from the thieves in her own family. "What do you want?" Michael asked, his arrogance finally cracking. "Money? Position?" I laughed softly. "I have more money than all of you combined. What I want is justice." The screens changed, showing a video of Grandmother in her study, dated 1 month before her death. "If you're watching this," her recorded image spoke, "then Alexandra has done exactly what I knew she would. She's protected our family's true legacy from those who would destroy it." Uncle Robert's face went pale as his mother continued speaking. "Robert, my son, I gave you everything: education, opportunity, trust, and you repaid me with theft and lies." Her voice hardened. "Alexandra has my complete authority to recover every penny you stole, no matter the cost to your reputation or freedom." The video ended. The room remained deathly quiet. The SEC has everything, I said into the silence. Every transaction, every forgery, every lie. But that's not all. I pressed a button on my phone. The conference room doors opened, admitting a stream of people in business suits. Meet the board of directors of Kingston Global Enterprises, I announced. Grandmother's real company, the one she built in secret while you were all stealing from her public holdings. Understanding dawned on their faces. That's right, I smiled. The company you thought you were stealing from, it was a shell. The real assets, the real power, was hidden where you'd never think to look, in plain sight, managed by the kid who can't handle money. You can't do this, Uncle Robert whispered, but his voice held no conviction. I already have. I nodded to Marcus, who began distributing documents. These are federal indictments, civil seizure notices, and restraining orders. You have 1 hour to leave the building before you're arrested. Diana began to cry. Michael looked like he might be sick. Patrick just stared at his hands. Oh, and Uncle Robert? I added as I gathered my things. Grandmother left you something personal. I slid an envelope across the table. The deed to a small property in Nebraska. She said you'd remember it. The farm where you grew up, before you decided money was more important than family. As I walked out, I heard him open the envelope, heard his sharp intake of breath as he recognized his childhood home. Grandmother's final lesson. Sometimes the greatest wealth is remembering where you came from. And sometimes the best revenge is letting people destroy themselves. 1 year later, I sat in Grandmother Alina's garden, now blooming with her favorite roses, reviewing the final reports from the federal investigation. The headlines still occasionally featured our family saga. Kingston financial fraud case ends in multiple convictions. Former finance titan Robert Kingston sentenced to 15 years. Kingston Global Enterprises announces $100 million charitable foundation. Marcus approached with my morning coffee, setting it beside a stack of letters from prison. Uncle Robert wrote weekly now, each letter a mixture of apology and desperate plea for help. I'd yet to respond to any of them. The last of the restitution payments have been processed, Marcus reported. All the defrauded investors have been made whole. I nodded, touching the jasmine perfume bottle I kept on my outdoor desk. Grandmother's signature scent, and the foundation's new scholarship program, fully funded. The first class of 50 students starts this fall. He paused, including Diana's daughter. That made me look up. My cousin Diana, now serving 3 years for fraud, had one request before being taken to prison: that her 16-year-old daughter Emma not suffer for her mistakes. Emma's grades qualified her fairly, I said. Grandmother always said talent shouldn't be wasted, even if it runs in complicated families. My phone buzzed with a text from Patrick, the only cousin who'd avoided jail by turning state's evidence. He worked as a junior analyst at a small firm in Nebraska now, living in the apartment above Uncle Robert's childhood farm. Thank you for giving Emma the chance I wasted. His message read. Grandmother would be proud. Maybe. But she'd also taught me to be careful with second chances. I opened my laptop to review the morning's trading reports. Kingston Global Enterprises had doubled in size since taking over Uncle Robert's legitimate assets. Turns out, when you removed the fraud and corruption, there was actually a solid business beneath. Miss Kingston? Marcus interrupted my thoughts. Michael's wife is here. About the house. I'd given her until the end of the month to vacate their mansion, now company property after the asset seizure. She'd been surprisingly dignified about it. unlike Michael, who tried to hide assets until the very end. Show her in. Sarah Kingston appeared, elegant even in obvious distress. Alexandra, I know I have no right to ask. The children's trust funds are intact. I cut in gently. Grandmother set them up through my company years ago, where Robert couldn't touch them. They'll have enough for college. The relief on her face made me think of another day in this garden, years ago. Flashback. Money is neutral, Alexandra. Grandmother had said, tending her roses. It's not good or evil. It simply amplifies what's already in a person's heart. Is that why Uncle Robert, I'd started, became a thief? She'd smiled sadly. Robert forgot where he came from. That farm in Nebraska taught him the value of hard work, but success made him forget those lessons. She turned to me. Promise me you'll remember. Wealth isn't about having money. It's about what you do with it. Present day. There's an apartment, I told Sarah. 3 bedrooms, good school district. The trust will cover rent until you find work. My HR department has some leads if you're interested. She stared at me. Why? After what Michael did? Because grandmother believed in second chances, but only for those who earn them. After she left, I walked through the mansion's halls, now lined with photos telling our family's real history. Grandmother as a young investor, building her first company. The farm in Nebraska where she'd grown up poor but determined. Me at graduation, receiving the keys to her secret empire. My phone buzzed again. A message from the prison warden. Uncle Robert wanted another visit. I deleted it without responding. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt. Marcus appeared with more papers to sign. The board approved your proposal for the tech incubator. We can start accepting applications from young entrepreneurs next month. I smiled, signing the documents. 20 promising startups would receive funding and mentorship, just as grandmother had once mentored me. Her legacy growing in unexpected ways. Oh, and this came for you. He handed me an envelope, heavy cream paper with familiar handwriting. Inside was a letter grandmother had written years ago, with instructions to deliver it today, the anniversary of her passing. My dearest Alexandra, if you're reading this, you've done exactly what I knew you would. Protected our legacy, while teaching some difficult but necessary lessons about the true value of wealth. The money was never the point. It was about character, about choosing what kind of person you want to be when faced with the temptations of power. Robert chose greed. Your cousins chose ease over ethics. But you, my darling girl, chose wisdom. You learned that true wealth lies not in what you have, but in what you build for others. The garden you're sitting in was once just dirt and dreams. Like everything worthwhile, it needed patience, care, and the courage to cut away what doesn't serve its growth. Take care of our legacy, but don't let it consume you. Build something new, something that serves not just our family's redemption, but the world's need for more people who understand that money is meant to grow more than just wealth. I'm proud of you, not for what you've achieved, but for who you've become. All my love, grandmother. I folded the letter carefully, touching the dried rose petal that had fallen from its folds. Outside, the garden bloomed, its roots deep and strong, just like the legacy she trusted me to protect. Some fortunes are measured in dollars, but the greatest wealth, I'd learned, was in proving worthy of an extraordinary woman's trust. That was the real inheritance, and I planned to make it grow.